had some crazy stuff happen at my house. My radiator bursted in one of my rooms.
Okay.
And it was a mess, a real mess, and expensive. And, you know, I got very stressed, like, oh no, what am I going to do? This is going to be so expensive. And a friend of mine's helping me clear out the room because there's water all over the place. And I'm stressing out. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I stopped and I went, yes, this
Oh
happened.
my God. Yeah.
Because I realized I was really going down.
Yeah.
And it was so stressful. But I said, wait a minute. I said this to myself the other day. What if we did react that way? So I did it. I did it a couple times. Yeah, baby. My radiators bursted. This is so, oh yes. And I did it. From that moment on, step after step, so many things positive happened from those radiators being bursted. It was incredible.
Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Hey folks, welcome back to Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I am your host, Chris Doris, and today our guest is Hope Lewellen. I actually coached Hope 19 years ago. We started in February of the year 2000. She was introduced to me by a mutual friend who was the former trainer for the New England Patriots. His name is Jan Pickett. Let me read you a little bit about Hope. Hope lost her leg in 1989 in an accident at work at Chicago O'Hare Airport. She was working as an aircraft mechanic, and a 767 was rolled over both her legs. After spending 6.5 months in the hospital, she thought her athletic days were over before realizing that that was not the case. She returned to work for the airlines in her old job for nearly 2 years before leaving to pursue a career on the Pro Tour of wheelchair tennis. Talk about converting adversity into fuel. I actually wrote about Hope in my first book. Now she's a 4-time Paralympian in wheelchair tennis and sitting volleyball, winning 2 silver and 1 bronze medal. She also competed for the USA in wheelchair basketball at a World Championships in 2002. She played for 15 years on the wheelchair tennis tour, and she recently told me, I haven't talked to her live, we've just been texting recently, that she's got a new sport, shooting. And she said, we're going to talk about it. I can't wait to hear. So Hope is so fun. She has such a great vibe. You're going to love her. So let's go find her. She's waiting. Let's go see where she's at. Where are you, Hope? Found her. There she is, Hope Lewellen, my dear friend of almost 20 years. How the hell are you?
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
You found me, but I found you first.
It's true.
Way back then, 20 years ago.
That's actually, you know what's so funny? Is I have a note that you sent me. The very first one. This is kind of funny. I'm going to read it to you, okay?
I'm ready.
It says, now this was sent on February 2nd, the year 2000.
I got to write that down. Okay.
It says, hello. Jan Pickett gave me your email address. Unfortunately, I do not know your name. You wrote me. You didn't even know. You didn't even ask my name. You didn't ask Jan by the way, what's this dude's name?
Yeah.
My name is Hope Lewellen, and I'm a professional wheelchair tennis player. Jan told me that you may be interested in helping my mind out. This is a big year. I plan on winning the gold medal in Sydney in 2000 Paralympics. In October, I also would like to take my tennis to new heights for my regular season. Let me know if I could call you or what would be in order. Here's my number. Thank you for your time. Peace. Yeah, that was.
Sounds like me.
Yeah.
And then we had, right.
and you wasted no time because exactly 1 week later we were doing our first session. I have my notes from that here, and yeah, our phone call. You were. It was scheduled for 1 p.m. Arizona time, and you called at 1:15. I'm just saying. You know,
Okay.
But you were early for this call, so apparently
yeah. I've matured.
You've you've been working on your punctuality.
Big time.
So, Hope, as you know, this video blog / podcast is all about mental toughness, right?
Yes, sir.
What do you know about mental toughness? In fact, let me read. So, I wrote about you in my book, right?
I sure do.
In my first book, in the chapter that is entitled Developing Unrestricted Belief, I say this. There are many well-known athletes who have achieved exceptional levels of success, but were never exceptionally naturally talented, or better yet, had tremendous obstacles to overcome. Take, for instance, Hope Lewellen. Hope lost her leg in a terrible work-related accident. Soon thereafter, Hope was playing wheelchair tennis in the 1996 Paralympics in Atlanta, where she won a silver medal in doubles. Then she went on to compete again in Australia at the 2000 Paralympics. Hope reached 4th in the world rankings for wheelchair tennis players, and since then has played on our national wheelchair basketball team and most recently earned a spot on our national sit volleyball team, with whom she made her 3rd consecutive Olympic appearance in the 2004 Paralympics. Now there's a story of someone who took enormous adversity and converted it into fuel. It's a story of a woman who focused on what she could do. Hope decided for herself what to believe about the loss of her leg and what that meant for her and her future. She chose her beliefs and as a result has created a wonderfully successful and rewarding life. That was 14 years ago I wrote that.
14 years ago.
Yeah, I wrote that.
And now one other Paralympics under my belt and another sports, national team sport under my belt.
Well, we will get to that. I want to hear all about that. But before that, I want to talk about the beginning, if you're comfortable.
Sure.
Because it is an yours is a remarkable story that I have told numerous, impossible to know, even to estimate how many hundreds of times I've shared your story with people. It's a story of unusual tragedy.
It is.
That you had a decision to make from. So can you talk a little bit? Can we go back there?
Yeah, let's go. Okay. Well, as you said, I was an aircraft mechanic.
Yeah.
Very young, very, very young. I started very young. I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I already started working as an aircraft mechanic. I would go into the cockpit to talk to the pilots about, the airplane, how'd it go. And I had one guy turn and look at me and he goes, "Does your mother know you're here?" I was baby faced. I was so young. And then 2 years later, at 22, I'd gone into work. At the time at O'Hare Airport, we didn't have the international terminal. We had what was called a pad. So we would work on the airplane out on this pad. And then we would have to move it to the terminal. And without going into extreme detail,
Sure.
As we were moving it, things happened. Things were possibly done wrong.
Yeah.
But basically, I was run over both my legs by the nose wheel of a 767, which is a wide body, and very, very heavy. And I did end up losing one leg. I stayed conscious the entire time, all the way to the emergency room. I remember every detail, every moment. Yeah, I remember everything. And as crazy as that sounds, I think it really helped me because when it happened, I saw everything. I saw what happened to my leg, and I just said, "That's it. I'm dead. There's no way." I saw how much blood I lost. I saw my leg off my body, and I thought, "This is it. There's no way I can survive this. I'm out in the middle of the tarmac, far away from help." And I just thought, okay, this is how I die. So to have that thought that I was sure, it wasn't like, oh, I was quite sure I would die. That helps you when you wake up the next day in the hospital, because I woke up and I went, oh, I made it. Is this really? And I kind of looked around like, holy crap, I made it. How did I get out of that?
Yeah.
So I really feel like it helped me, and knowing that I lost my leg didn't matter because I was so sure I would die.
Really? So you
No,
wake up and you're like, okay, well, I made it. I'm alive, and my leg is gone, and there was no
and
severe remorse about that.
I mean,
Because you
yeah,
were happy
sure,
to
I
be
went through
alive.
a normal amount of remorse, but the big picture was, holy crap, I made it through
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and all I lost was a leg.
Yeah.
Okay,
How long
small
did it?
price.
You were in a hospital for a long time,
Very long time, 6.5 months.
right? And then at what point did you decide that you were going to become this amazing athlete? Like when did that thinking start?
So here's the other funny thing about me being okay about losing my leg. I have been an athlete since the 2nd grade.
Mm.
Here's the funny thing, when I knew I was going to be playing softball for the first time, I started, well, I don't know how old are you at 2nd grade. I started practicing in my basement diving catches.
Wow.
That little girl,
Yeah.
I was already like, oh, I got to be able to do diving catches. My dad's like, well, do you know how to just catch the ball? I go, yeah, I can do that already. I need to know how to do this. I got to be ready. So I had already been an athlete. And the reason why I bring that up is I was so into softball at that time. I played a little basketball as well. The thought of hurting my legs, I remember thinking in those days,
Yeah.
oh, no way, I'd rather die. If something happens to my legs and I can't keep playing, I'd rather die. And I felt that way. I believed it. But then when the reality hits you, you realize, this, I remember thinking that, because I remember thinking, oh, I remember when I thought I didn't want anything to happen to my legs. But when I woke up in that hospital and I was alive, I'm like, nope, this is good. I'll take it. And,
Wow.
so what I already forgot. What
No,
your
yeah,
question
no.
was.
So I was saying, okay, so you always were an athlete. So at what
Oh,
point,
yeah.
how soon after your injury did you say, all right, we're going to work with this. I will continue to be an athlete, not only an athlete, but an unusually powerful and successful, an Olympian.
So in the hospital doing my therapies, people there obviously knew about the Paralympics, and they started talking to me about it. And I said, oh yeah, that can be cool. And I wasn't sure, but I just thought that sounds interesting. And we'll see, and having been a pretty high level athlete before, I kind of thought, oh, it's probably like recreational. So part of me thought, oh, it's not like high level, and I wasn't sure about it. Then a couple of years after my accident, I'd seen an ad in the newspaper for a wheelchair basketball camp for guys, actually.
Okay.
But then here's the funny thing. All the way at the bottom of the ad was a little writing, tryouts for the women's wheelchair RIC basketball team. Now, let me tell you why this is significant. The fact that it said tryouts is what got me. Okay? And I'll tell you why it's funny that they even wrote tryouts. So I showed up. I went to the tryouts, got there. I was in some big old clunker wheelchair that I'd gotten from, out of the hospital, not like a normal sport chair.
Yeah.
I'd played basketball before, so I had some basketball skills. So I went out in this tryout for the team, and they're all, all the girls were like, okay, this is what you do, and kind of showing me how to do it. And I clearly had athletic skills. And they were very excited, like, oh, okay. And at the end of the tryout, I just went, so did I make it? And they all busted out laughing so hard. They're like, yeah,
You're
you
a captain.
So my point to that is, if they would have just written, come join the women's wheelchair basketball team, have fun, I don't know if it would have captured me. I think that the fact that it said tryouts.
What was it about? So what did that mean to you, tryout? Was it a challenge? Was it
the challenge?
Yeah.
Like, we don't just take everybody, even though they do. Here's the thing. If you want to play wheelchair basketball, they would have taken you no matter what.
Oh,
But
that's so interesting. So that's so interesting that they did that. Given that, they still chose to use the word tryout.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for that.
That's probably because they wanted to weed out people who weren't really competitive.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I never did ask them. I should have. But that's what got me. The fact that you try out. So that's where my disabled sports career began, was wheelchair basketball. And I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was glad that's where it started.
You know, foundational to mental toughness is, of course, is the ability to choose how to interpret reality. Right? and that's what you're to me, that's what you're famous for, is for choosing to interpret a reality that to the vast majority of people would just be pure tragedy, the end, deal, cope, right? As opposed to create from. There's a mantra that I use now, which was not something I was using when we worked together. And I love this, is every set of circumstances can be leveraged or can be created from. Every set of circumstances can be created from if viewed masterfully, right? And you can create magic from every set of circumstances. But that's a big ass if. Like if viewed masterfully, right?
I have a story for you about that.
Okay.
What you're saying exactly.
Perfect.
If you're ready for it.
Oh, well, yeah.
I think you're going to enjoy this.
Okay.
Do you remember a commercial? I think it was DirecTV. Doesn't really matter, but I think it was DirecTV. It was a couple of years ago, and people kept like either sitting in gum or hitting their head on something, or something bad happened to them. But every time the reaction was yes.
Yes, I do remember,
do you remember that.
I do remember that.
And it was hilarious. It was a hilarious commercial.
Yeah.
And at first I was just laughing at it.
Right.
And then
because the woman spilled coffee all over herself. Right.
And she's like, yeah. And the actors did it great, right?
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
all of a sudden, I thought to myself, what if we did react that way? What if we did? Because those things that happened to them, they weren't that bad. You know, it was just, and I kind of set that aside in my brain. Yeah. Then I had some crazy stuff happen at my house. My radiator bursted in one of my rooms. Okay. And it was a mess, a real mess, and expensive. And, you know, I got very stressed, like, oh no, what am I going to do? This is going to be so expensive. And a friend of mine's helping me clear out the room because there's water all over the place. And I'm stressing out. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I stopped and I went, yes, this happened.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because I realized I was really going down.
Yeah.
And it was so stressful. But I said, wait a minute. I said this to myself the other day. What if we did react that way? So I did it. I did it a couple times. Yeah, baby. My radiators bursted. This is so, oh yes. And I did it. From that moment on, step after step, so many things positive happened from those radiators being bursted. It was incredible. I found out my insurance would pay for everything. The heating guy that came out fixed something that I thought was going to be a real difficult, expensive thing. He fixed it like that without even batting an eye. I found out a better way to heat that room in a cheaper way. And I don't have air conditioning in this house. It was this special unit called the mini split that they put in there, which had air conditioning and heating, and it cost less than repairing my radiators. It was thing after thing after thing. Positives just started happening. I'm telling you, right after I did that reaction, it was so incredible.
Well, you know, it's an interesting choice of terms right there. Incredible, which literally means not believable, but I believe it.
Okay.
And I know obviously by virtue, well, of course you believe it. You are the living that. And I love that story. It reminds me of, I came up with another mantra. I'm big on mantras these days, Hope. And I had just a phenomenally magical experience 2 summers ago in Greece, in the Greek islands, where I went on a solo journey with no itinerary.
Oh.
I had no plan. I didn't know where I was starting. All I had was a flight into Athens and out of Athens, but I knew I had to get to the islands, and then it was just like one big ass question mark, and I was there for about 8 or 10 days, and the whole thing was magical. Pure. In fact, I'm writing about it. I'm recording a series of videos about it because it's so magical. But this is the mantra that came from the experience. All there is magic. That's the constant in this equation we call life. The variable is my willingness to slow down enough and vibe high enough in order to co-create with that magic. So your story reminds me of that. Like the magic is always happening. Now, if I'll just go, yes, right? In other words, and it doesn't have to be that literal fist pumping, but what it literally is elevating my state, in other words, raising my vibration. And that's what you did. So you had an adversity again, right? It's like, your radiator blows up, and now most people would just say, well, that just sucks. This sucks. And you did say that at first.
I was there. Yeah, I was
right
there.
But what you did was you reached the point, and maybe with the help of DirecTV and a really creative, funny ad, which they didn't mean. They weren't even intentionally making that point at all. They were just trying to be funny. They were being ironic. But I love your question, which is, what if we did react that way? Now I'm going to stay with that question because I think that is I think that's a legitimately great question.
Yeah.
And I think you started to answer the question. Well, what if we did? Well, maybe then a bunch of good shit would happen. I was on my way to give a talk in San Francisco one time. I actually did a video on this. It's on my YouTube channel. It's called The Power of Enthusiasm. And all these things went wrong. Like it was delayed, then it was delayed again. Then there was a thing that broke, and then the flight crew timed out. So then we had to get off the plane. All these things were going wrong. And when we had to get off the plane, I'm thinking I'm not going to get there in time to give my talk. It was an unusual thing because normally this company flies me in the night before. For whatever reason, we didn't do it that way this time. I was flying in the day of, which is risky, and all the risk factors became reality. So here I'm thinking, well, this is weird. I mean, they already paid me. It's never happened before. I'm going to miss the whole thing. So I'm starting to go dark in my head, like, this sucks. This is real bad. And then I watched as soon as the captain came on, like we had gone out on the tarmac and we were waiting, and it had to go back to the gate, and it was a long drawn out thing. And then as soon as the captain came on and said, I got to tell you, folks, this is one thing a captain never wants to say, but we timed out, our flight crew timed out. We're going to have to leave, and you guys are going to have to get a new flight or whatever. People started going berserk. There was one guy standing next to me. He went batshit crazy. He was on the phone. He must have been talking to the airline and he was screaming.
Yeah.
He was screaming at this poor human being on the other end, right? His customer service agent. And I saw him, and that was my shift. Because I looked at him and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go the opposite direction of that. Right? But I was already going dark. I hear you. I'm on my way to give a talk on mental toughness, and I'm going, oh shit, this sucks. This is a real problem.
I hear you.
And then I see this guy going nuts, and I'm like, ding. Thank you, dude. Thank you, stranger, for the reminder of how of the choice that I have.
Yes.
The choice. So I got on the phone. All right. So the choice that I made was to elevate. Right. And that's what your story is about. You chose. I don't know if there was a moment for you in your story, like if there was something that happened, like the thing that happened for me that had me remember, I have a choice, was the dude freaking out. Was there a thing in your story or did you just reach a point you're like, I'm done complaining?
From my accident, you mean?
No.
From
the radiator.
I was feeling the stress. I think I was maybe because a friend of mine who was helping me, he's the kind of guy who stays very level and even.
Okay.
So he was actually the opposite of
what he's kind of inviting you up. Yeah.
And I could see him being like, it's going to be okay, Hope, and just kind of talking to me calmly. And I was like, but, how am I going to, and I was all getting wound up. And I just went, wait a minute. I don't even know. It just went, no, I'm not doing this. And then I just went into it. I said, I got to help myself somehow here.
That's great, and that's
And
a
I just
critical
went
moment.
for it.
And then things changed. So in the story that I was in my story about the flight to San Fran, what happened was immediately after I changed my channel, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
I redirected, elevated, however you want to call it. Right? I made the decision to vibe up. Then I got on the phone and I called American Airlines customer service, and I was already smiling before she answered. And you can feel that, right? You feel the vibe.
Oh yeah.
And I go on, and she said her name, and I don't know, we'll just say it's Amy or something. And I said, Amy, I have a fantastic situation here, and I totally need your help. And she was just like that. She's like, cool. She's, oh, fun. She's like, oh, wow. It's so nice to hear someone. Yeah. I said, so here's the deal. And she's like, oh, you're on that one. Yeah. Yeah. She's like, wow, you have a really great attitude. I'm like, so do you. And we're just having a good time with it. Right. And she goes, all right, get off. When you get off the plane, tell me what gate you're at. And then it became this fun. It was like Mission Impossible, where I was like, all right, I'm at A24. She goes, okay, can you see A9? And I'm like, yeah, it's all way down. She goes, run.
Yes.
And I'm running down. And I'm So it's perfect. So I get that, and she's like, the flight. It's a flight to San Fran, but it's probably gone, or the door's probably closed. Just get down there. Tell me if the door's open. And if it is, tell them to keep it open. So the door's still open. Nobody's there. There's one guy. There's one gate attendant, and nobody else. They already boarded, and they were late. And I went up to him. I was panting. I said, "Yeah, I have the concierge on the phone, and are there any seats left?" And he said, "Wow, all right, let me look." And he said, "There's one." So he gives me a ticket, and we hang up. And I'm cutting out a ton of detail for the sake of time here.
Sure.
Just give me the part that's super relevant. So I'm like, oh my God, it's incredible. Like, I was in the middle of the plane when I got off that first plane, and there were so many people that were just walking. There was a gate. It said San Fran. The doors, and people are just walking with their heads down, going, I can't, what a pain in the ass. They're walking right past the solution. All the people in first class went by first, and all the people in front of me on the plane went by, and then except the ones that I passed when I was running. And the solution was there, but nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Right? Because their heads were down, because their vibes were down. The magical solution was there. And then it got even better, just to wrap it up. I'm walking down the whatever the gateway is. And what's that thing called?
Jetway.
Thank you. Jetway. It's very, your history is handy in this story right now. So I'm walking down the jetway, and then that guy, the gate attendant, goes, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You have to give me your ticket back." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And he takes it, and he rips it up. I'm like, rude. And he hands me a first class ticket.
Oh, yes.
And he said, "Have a great day." And there's so much more that happened after that. Which is why I made a video out of it. It's a 30-minute video. It opened up, and then all things got better. And then my Uber driver, when I got there, I told him the story. He ends up like he's loving the story. He drives me to my talk. He stays out front the whole time and listening to my audio programs that he just bought.
Wow.
And all this stuff, like you said. So I love your story. Thank you so much for sharing the radiator story. I think it's incredible. and that's really representative of really, I guess, why we're even talking today.
I think so. That's why I when I was thinking about today, I thought, yeah, I need to tell Chris this story.
Yeah, you did. I'm so glad you did. Because so what is it a story of? What is it really fundamentally a story about? So people walk away from this conversation, whether they're watching or listening to the podcast version, when they walk away from this, like, what is the specific thing that we want them to walk with? That's from this story. So
I like how you said it, opening yourself up to, you say the magic, opening yourself up to positivity, opening yourself up to the possibilities of, like the thing everybody says, everything happens for a reason. Okay. I mean, let's go a little further back to my accident. My life is so full and so great because of my accident. So if we allow ourselves to be open to this bad thing, and it feels bad right now, and I'm stressed, and this is tough, and maybe sometime down the line I'll understand the good of this. But instead of saying, let me wait, let's just get positive right now.
Wow.
Let's get positive right now, and maybe those things will show itself sooner. Because I don't know how soon I would have seen the positive of my radiator breaking. It's hard to say, but a shift happened when I did that. It really did. My entire attitude toward that happened, and we started laughing. My friend started laughing when I did that. He just started giggling because I had told him the story of the commercial weeks before.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as I did it, he knew exactly what I was doing. He started laughing. We both just started laughing. And within 1 minute before or 30 seconds before, I was stressed and feeling horrible and nervous and, all the bad things. And now we're giggling.
And closing your, so those low grade vibes, which I call below the O line, which means observation line, which is neutral. So you're either below neutral, at neutral, or above neutral in all moments of our lives. So you were below neutral, right? You were below the O line, and as a consequence, you were closing yourself off from these possibilities.
Yes.
You were disconnecting yourself from the opportunity to experience magic, right? And then you switched
exactly
in a moment. And you vibed up instantly. You instructed your brain to release different chemicals, notably serotonin and dopamine, and which are the on switches for all intelligence centers of the brain, which have us be amazing, that have us be athletic, that have us be creative, that has us be intelligent, that have us be compassionate, that have us be just badass. And you did. You activated your badassery. That's it. That's the takeaway.
Wow.
That's the ticket right there.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that we have that ability, that's even an option. Right? And then B, to choose it, right? And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then you get to experience, all that comes with that. In addition to feeling good, great shit happens. But only always.
You taught me that a long time ago.
What was that?
Sorry, that was my R2D2. I have a text coming in on my phone.
That was cool.
Okay. I love Star Wars.
All right. So do I.
You taught
so do
me
I.
that.
So do I. We won't go too far down that tangent, but I love because of all the metaphor of exactly what we're talking about, which is the Jedis, right?
We could go
and the
into
magic.
That, but yes. Oh, yes. But going back to the changing your mindset, you taught me that with tennis. If I was losing or not having a good day on the court, I still pushed out onto the court like I was winning, and it did bring things up. Wow, if I was winning if I was winning handedly, I would sometimes think, "Oh, I dropped a set," because I wanted to keep my edge.
Yeah.
So you taught me those things, and I love those things. They helped me quite a bit.
That's a tool called acting as if. And you feel as if acting as if whatever situation that's going to have you be your most amazing self is happening right now. Right? Yep. Yeah, acting as if today is the best athletic performance day in my life. Acting as if I just dropped a set, so I need to really hyper focus here and get determined and max out. So I want to go back to your question, and I love it because I'm going to be using it. It's like, what if? So now we already answered what if. There's another question. So the question was, what if we did react that way? What if that was our reaction? Well, we already answered that. What if? Good shit happens. Okay. And then the next question is, all right, how do we get to be that? How do we get ourselves to be the person that does react that way?
How do we? Because if you're pretty down, it can be tough to pull that out.
So repetition. It's just practice. It's just like anything else, right? It's like training.
With those little things, like on DirecTV commercial, it could be, you sat in gum. And
Yep.
normally we'd be like, what the hell? Who did,
Yeah, right,
yes,
right.
I sat and gum,
Yeah.
Just, you're right. Practice with the little things.
With all, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
And there are so many little things. Go.
Which I love. I watched your talk with Francis, which he's amazing.
Isn't he?
And you guys were talking about little kids walking, learning to walk. When they fall, they're not like, oh, they don't care that they just fell. They're not
you're
beating
right.
themselves up when they fall.
I
They're
love
just
that.
like,
That was his analogy. Francis Pichet, you're talking about, who, he gets this stuff. Right. I love that. So the kids, like,
they're
they're not trying to learn to walk. They're just doing it.
That's it.
Right. There's no part of them that's like, I wonder if I'll ever be one of the humans that walks. No, they're just doing it.
Yeah. And when they fall, they're not beating themselves up for it.
They don't
ever.
call it, interestingly, okay, I want to hear how you feel about this. They wouldn't label that as an accident.
Yeah.
Interesting
Or,
word.
oh, I'm so dumb. What have
the
I
word
done,
accident itself is interesting.
Mm.
You know, I don't know what it, I never looked this up. I don't know like how it's literally defined.
Okay.
I just know I have my idea
that would be
of
interesting.
like, what it actually means to me, which is like well, what are you like? What if you're going to if someone said to you, someone comes from another planet, like I'm unfamiliar with the term accident. What does that mean?
Something that arises that you had not planned for.
So that could be a surprise party.
That's true. A happy accident.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You're right.
Well,
So, but they all are happy accidents, aren't they?
if we'll see it that way.
Yeah.
Right. If we train ourselves, so if we did train ourselves to be the person whose auto response is enthusiasm, right? Which, by the way, is a phenomenal word because it comes from the Greek word entheos, which means the creator within.
Ooh.
So, right?
Wow.
Entheos, the inside creator, theos, creator. The creator within. So enthusiasm is hugely intelligent. So if we train ourselves to be that, the person who creates from every circumstance, right? Who responds automatically with enthusiasm, then we get to experience all the magic. So we can do that. Right. And like you said, with all, this is really brilliant. This is a really good conversation. So thank you for this. This is really good because I mean, this is what I hope for when I have a Tough Talks interview, because what we're doing here is we're covering something that I think is so truly fundamental to the human experience. And we're actually discussing something quite large, it's monumental, which is unnecessary suffering by virtue of low-grade interpretations of reality.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had those words so eloquent, but that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's new with you? What else you got going on? I want to hear what's new with Hope.
Whew. Okay. Well, I think I told you I started a new sport. Well, 3 years in. I started shooting, target shooting.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I do 10-meter air pistol and then 25-meter. Is that right? 22. It's called sport pistol.
Yeah.
Interesting sport for mental toughness.
Okay.
Because you do the exact same thing over and over and over for 60 shots. Now think about that.
Wow.
You might be able to train for even a month and once in a while hit a bullseye, right? Which I think everybody could do that. Everybody could get to a point where they could hit a bullseye every now and again. But the mental toughness comes in is how many times can you do it in 60 shots? Floating in thoughts, it's, oh, and by the way, I think you'll dig this. So my coach, when especially with air pistol, you it's a one-arm thing. You lift your hand and you're just holding and shooting.
Okay.
He tells you, all coaches will tell you, the minute a thought comes in, you abort the shot. You can't have any random thoughts coming in. So think about that.
Wow.
For 60 shots, how are you going to clear your mind for 60 shots?
So how do you do it?
it's a work in progress. and believing in aborting the shot, you know, because here's how the inner dialogue goes. You lift you're getting ready to shoot. Okay, last shot. There's a thought, but wait, no, I can do it. I can still do it. I can hold this and still do it, even with those thoughts, you know.
Wow.
Or here's another funny thing.
Okay.
You lift a shot. Oh, I'm having a thought. Okay, abort. Next shot. Oh, I'm so good. I aborted the last shot. Oh, there's a thought, you know.
Hope, you know what you're describing? You're literally describing the practice of freaking transcendental meditation. Or
Yes.
it's colloquially referred to as the gap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you and I ever talked about that or not, but in fact, I'm sure we did when we were working together 19 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about this thing. I didn't know about transcendental meditation, but it's a practice, and it's the MVP of all my mental toughness tools right now.
Yes, I have studied it.
Yeah, so it's the practice. So it's a meditation where you're practicing not giving a shit about your thoughts. You're becoming a disinterested observer of the activity of your mind and simply let is the operative word. You're letting your thoughts arise and drift off like a puff of smoke, and you couldn't give less of a damn about them.
Yeah.
And the more you practice not caring about them, the more capable you are of letting your brain shush.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And for 60 shots.
That's yeah.
So still being a beginner, and a lot of times when we compete, the able-bodied shooters are competing also near us. And one of the top female shooters, I went up to her. Sorry, I don't remember her name. I apologize. And I said, can I ask you a question? Sure. Can you tell me how often you abort a shot? Because I'm new and I'm trying to figure this out. And I go, if you don't know, she goes, no. And she took some thoughts and took some thoughts. I'd say about 50% of the time. My eyes popped out of my head because as a beginner, maybe I'm aborting twice. If I abort twice, I'm patting myself on the back. Oh, you did it. You aborted. Wow. Top shooter in the U.S. She's aborting 50% of the time. I was like, oh, I'm not doing something right. Either that or she's got a very busy mind, but
if she's one of the top shooters, then she's doing it right.
Something right.
Yeah.
So any little thought, she's just abort. Oh, or I didn't lift right, abort. A lot of times if you don't lift right, sometimes our brain's like, no, you can fix it. You can fix it. No, you shouldn't. You got to abort. And it's such a, if you think about it, it's an easy thing. In the world, you think, how tough is that to abort when you don't lift right? Or when you think, it's tough. It's surprisingly difficult.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You should take this skill to golfers. Right, because it's so much. When I was working exclusively with golfers,
I remember
that was a huge part. I mean, we did so much work at the moment right before you pull the trigger, so to speak. Before you start your swing, it's like you want to be shh.
Yeah.
So and everybody talks about swing thoughts. I'm like, no, have none. If you need swing thoughts, do them before you step over the ball, and then let your mind be quiet. But it's so much easier said than done. But once again, with practice. Now, there's another part of your story right there where you asked this woman that question. It's the fact that you did. And that's one of the things that I admire so much about you. What is it that so most people wouldn't do that. They'd be like, oh, why would she want to talk to me? They might even have the question, I wonder what she does. I wonder why she's so good. But they wouldn't do anything about that.
Yeah.
You're not that person.
No, I will ask a million questions. I will ask. If you're good, I'm going to ask you, what are you doing?
Yeah, and that's a takeaway. That there's value in that for the audience
Most
today.
Definitely.
Right? Is to ask. And why were you asking?
A, I knew she was a great shooter.
Yeah.
She's the one to ask. B, I knew I wasn't doing it right. I knew there's something I'm not understanding about the abort. That is it okay to just keep aborting? Like, because as a new shooter, I'm like,
so it's just your own commitment to more excellence.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, there's a person who's demonstrating more excellence. Let me go learn.
Of course.
So it's commitment to growth. So is there anything else that you want people to know about that's going on in your world?
Well, workshops, all
Okay,
this
well,
information, my wife and I
uh-huh.
have begun workshops to help people.
Is Dorit there? There
Yeah,
she comes. Good.
to help people. What we like to say is get out of your own way.
So what?
This
I don't
is
know anything about
something,
this. So tell me. Go ahead. Keep going.
something you once told me. I'm gonna unplug here.
So who do we have coming on?
Okay, sorry. This is Dorit.
Hi, Dorit.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise, we've never
Right.
actually spoken live. It's so nice to
Never
see you.
before.
Nice to meet you. Finally, at long last.
Finally.
Yeah.
So something you taught me also a long time ago was, you said, Hope, can you hear us all right?
I can hear you fine. Are you using a cell phone?
iPad.
Oh, if you turn it the other way, maybe we. Yeah. There you go.
That's better. You once told me.
It
when
only
I'm
took me
wounded-
43 minutes to think of that.
I'm chipping away. You're a block of marble, Hope, and I'm chipping away to get you to your true self. You told me that once.
Oh, that's the Statue
You're
of
there.
David. Yeah, that's the Statue
You're
of David
in there.
analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like that's similar to what we do.
So
We're getting
what's
to
the name of
true
your
self.
workshop?
Well, that depends on what the audience is and what we're looking for, because we do different workshops. But mainly the basic thing is connecting people to their true voice, to their true inner voice, because we grow up believing so many things about ourselves, what we can do, what we can't do, what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be the best or the funniest or the kindest people, and this is what's leading us in life. And what we don't know is that this is a voice that grew up inside of us and running our lives, and it has nothing to do with the truth. Like, people will love you even if you won't be number one, and people will love you even if you won't be a perfectionist. So, but when you believe that this is what you are, then you kind of gain a magic flashlight that shows you where you're not, what you're supposed to be. So, for instance, this morning we had a coaching session with another graphologist from Israel. I'm also a graphologist. I analyze handwriting, and she was supposed to give a lecture. And she's a perfectionist. She really worked on her presentation. She was ready. Everything was perfect. She got there. Nothing worked. The computer didn't work. The speakers didn't work. Nothing worked. Okay. But
All
what she
accidents.
did, yeah,
Right, but listen.
but she adjusted perfectly. She just sat down, and she had groups of people coming to her, and they spoke to her about their signatures and their handwriting, and she blew them away, as she usually does. Okay, as she always does. And she called me, oh my God, it was horrible. And I said, what was horrible? And she said, everything went wrong. But once we showed her what went right, okay, because people didn't know what she was supposed to give them. They knew what she gave them. And
Oh, that's great.
Loved
Right. So it wasn't going wrong to them.
No,
It was the only
perfect.
place in the universe where something was going wrong was in her mind. That is really cool.
In her mind. So in the workshop, we help people.
That's brilliant. So, let me interrupt you because I want to slow that down, because that's another takeaway for the people, right, that are listening or watching this. It's that nothing. Okay, that's so good, right? Like, the only place that anything was, quote, going wrong was in her mind, in her interpretation. So there really wasn't anything going wrong. But if she had stuck with that interpretation, then stuff may have continued. She might have been awkward. It might have been just a poor performance, right? It wouldn't have, the value would have been tremendously compromised for the recipients or the participants or attendees, right? So
That's the first step.
Yeah,
the second
okay.
step is what she went with home.
What?
The feelings that she carried with herself after the lecture. She felt bad. She felt disappointed. She was upset with herself. And then when we started asking questions and we realized how great she did, we had to change the record in her brain, in her mind. Saying, no, I did great. It was amazing. So it's all because she's a perfectionist and her flashlight shows her what goes wrong. Like the 2% that are wrong, that flashlight will show her right away. She goes into the house, she sees the speck of dust, or how her kids, who made a perfect surprise for her and put the dishes in the dishwashers, they did it the wrong way. So now it doesn't matter what they did. What matters is they did it the wrong way. So once you know what are those voices that keep you running and keep you tuned to one tune, and they tell you how you should live your life, and you believe those voices, once you hear them, and it's kind of becoming a little schizophrenic for a little bit for the practice of it, you know.
Yeah. Well, you're challenging.
I hear this voice, and this voice tells me I must be the best. So I'll give you a little example about hope. We didn't talk about it before. I hope it's okay with you. Many years ago, Hope was supposed to go to to check her eyes, and she told me that she needs to win. She needs to be the best, so she needs to win the eye test. And it's, you know, what a concept, you know. I have to be the best in the eye test.
In everything. So the eye test is part of it.
So one of the things will be the best in being accurate in your answers to your doctor. That's the best that you can do. So then you can get the best glasses or the best equipment to work with and be the best in the rest of the things that you do. But
that's my voice that I gotta sometimes go, hey, you be the best, but
not
in the
here.
right things.
But not here. And you don't always have to be a perfectionist.
And that is very fundamental to mental toughness training, is acknowledging that we have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts, right? And that I can become a thought warrior by paying attention. It's all predicated upon awareness. For anybody to benefit from anything that you're talking about is all built upon the foundation of awareness, the ability to notice, to pay attention to the content of the activity of your mind and manipulate it. We got to get wrapping up. So tell me where Duri, thank you for all of that. Where do people
You're
go?
welcome. I'll leave you to it.
Oh, okay.
Bye. It was great talking to you.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
So, that was great. So where do people go? Hope, tell us where do people go to learn more about you and learn more about your workshops?
Okay. Let's start with her Facebook. That's where we have not opened our Facebook page for this workshops, because we've gone to where we do the workshops are yoga places and things around here, but they can go to her Facebook.
Okay.
And
I'll make sure I put those in the notes. But for those folks who aren't looking at anything right now, who are just listening to this on a podcast,
sure.
What is the Facebook? Is it Dorit?
Dorit, WALLACH.
So DORIT.
Mm-hmm.
And Dorit's last name is how do you pronounce it?
Wallach.
Oh, Wallach. WALLACH.
Right.
So they can go
and
ahead
then once
find that
we,
and
yeah,
you guys are building up a
open
website and all that stuff. Good deal. So this is really brand spanking new.
This thing, it's brand spanking new.
Right
We've
on.
done
Well,
it.
That's great.
I've also worked mental toughness with some athletes here and there. That's something I've helped athletes with that I've done. And
well, look, and so if anybody in the world wants to connect with you specifically, Hope.
I also have a Facebook page.
And it's Hope Lewellen.
Hope Lewellen. That's it.
All right. Perfect. That's great.
Oh my gosh. There's so much more, but okay.
I know. There is so much more. There is so much more, which means we'll have to do a version 2.
Okay.
All
Thanks so much.
Can we do that?
I hope we do.
All right. Perfect. Hope, this has been tremendous. So I just, I love you, Hope. Thanks so much.
Love too. I love the work you're doing, and I appreciate that you helped me on this path.
Wow, that's beautiful. You just warmed my heart. All right, my friend. Until next time.
Bye.
What an amazing question she asked. I'm so glad she brought up that, whether it was DirecTV or whatever, commercial where people automatically respond to, adversities or stuff going wrong with celebration. So the question is, what if that was our natural or our automatic response? What if? And she answered it, and the magic happens. Good things, positivity, right? And then the next obvious question is, okay, so how do we even explore that? How do we experiment with that? How would I possibly, if I wanted to, get to that point, to be the person who automatically responds to reality with enthusiasm? Practice. With all the little things. Catch yourself complaining, right? All the little things throughout the day, sitting gum, or just, spilling some coffee, or, your pen running out of ink, all the things you go, oh man. Practice. Elevate your response. The little fist pump. That's beautiful. And, wow, that was great. So I hope that you took as much out of that conversation as I did. And thanks for tuning in, as always, to Tough Talks. And until next time, create miracles.